Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Sure. So, what's going on with you lately, Webster? Busy, all this stuff breaking loose in the Mideast, devaluation of the currency. What's new? What do you got for us?
Well, I think we should probably start with the tremendous worldwide offensive of U.S. British intelligence, which was signaled by this CIA limited hangout known as WikiLeaks and this MK Ultra alumnus Assange, right, last autumn into November, December, essentially signaled that something very, very big was about to happen, and it's now clear. It is a mass worldwide destabilization. It is an insane rampage of coup d'etat, destabilization, putsch, right? Cliques of generals seizing power behind the scenes. It's being done in the color revolution mode, the CIA people power coup mode, the postmodern coup. Of course, added in the internet stuff, right? The social media, the Twitter, the Facebook. It's one huge subversive cocktail, and it seems to me that the likely outcome of this is chaos and the collapse of nation states across most of the world. Now, what I think is, of course, a lot of people are very confused about this. A lot of people very, very much caught up in this narrative of dictators and the golden youth and who want democracy. And of course, this is all absolutely ridiculous, right? This is naked power politics. It's the most cynical, brutal kind of exercise. And as the time goes on, I think that becomes more obvious. What is the most interesting thing maybe is why do they do this now, right? Why would the CIA, MI6, but also the National Endowment for Democracy, the International Republican Institute, the National Democratic Institute, Freedom House, the Soros Foundations, the whole tribe of British NGOs, right, the non-governmental organizations, why would they pull out all the stops now to bring down governments like Tunisia and Egypt and Libya? They were supposedly shooting today in Saudi Arabia. There's supposed to be a big day tomorrow in Saudi Arabia with the Friday prayers. God knows what they'll be able to put together. Libya seems to be a place where their coup has failed, and they're going towards civil war. But of course, why? Why do this? Well, what I put together as an analysis, which I will have up on Tarpley.net soon, and which you can follow right now on Twitter, right? Let me stress, in this fast-moving stuff, right? Webster G. Tarpley on Twitter.
Oh, man. What is the world coming to? We have to deal with Twitters with Webster Tarpley.
Absolutely.
And this is not a PSYOP Twitter account.
No, this is to counteract them. This is counter battery work against the agents, trolls, and bloggers that are on there, because and the stuff gets repeated. You'll see people pick it up. The main idea is that the U.S. British Empire is collapsing in political and economic strategic terms, and the idea simply is this. What does the U.S. offer? If you're in this empire, what do they offer you? Well, they offer you free trade and free markets, and they offer you the conditionalities of the International Monetary Fund and deregulation and privatization and union busting and the destruction of your state sector and the impoverishment of your masses. And then they offer you that they're gonna be interfering in your internal affairs. They're gonna come and say that your human rights record is no good and that you're a dictator and a tyrant. And a lot of people have gotten really fed up with this. So there are alternatives in today's world, right? The economic weakness of the U.S. is so overwhelming that the U.S. really has very little to offer in economic terms. And again, what they offer is this Washington consensus, which when you look at it looks very much like the right wing of the Republican Party. It looks pretty much like a Tea Party program. But people in the world have the sense to know that that is garbage. They don't want it. So I'll just give you some examples. You look at Mubarak. What was wrong with Mubarak? Well, he was having a rapprochement with Iran. He was opening up flights from Tehran to Cairo and back. He was rejecting the main U.S. plan, which was to put together this front of the Sunni Arab countries, that is to say Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, along with the Israelis, and play that against Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas, the radical or rejection front part of the world. So he said, no, I'm not going to do this. The fact that Mubarak rejected U.S. bases, would never allow U.S. bases in Egypt, never delivered U.S. troops from Egypt to go to Afghanistan or Iraq, and then refused this anti-Iranian front that the U.S. was pushing, especially in 2009. That is pretty much what sealed his doom, and it has nothing to do with democracy. If you look at Egypt right now, it is descending into chaos. You see the first riots between the Coptic Christians, who are about 10%, and the Muslims, who are 90%. The Copts actually supported Mubarak as much as they dared to. But they're going to take it on the chin. So again, you go down the line, right? Who's playing the Iranian card? Well, Mubarak's playing the Iranian card. You look at Lebanon. The Lebanese government is now pretty much controlled by Hezbollah, which has the close links to Iran. Of course, Maliki in Iraq, right? Despite the fact that the U.S. occupies the country, U.S. is incapable of imposing the puppet Alawi, who would be the U.S. guy. And instead, Maliki is there, and he's hanging on. And we just had a report now there was an attempted coup that was smothered, which included, killings of all sorts of people. And this would have been the CIA trying to do it. Now, then the really big ones, they'll get down to places like who's playing the Russian card. Well, there's a faction in Saudi Arabia around Prince Bandar that's playing the Russian card. And this became obvious in 07, 08, into 09. That there's a group, and it's very surprising to find Bandar, with his U.S. ties, being a key person in this, meeting with Putin and setting up the idea that Saudi Arabia would lean more on Russia and not be so much the complete slave and thrall of the U.S. when it comes to all of the strategic services, weaponry, whatever it is that they might need. Others who are playing the Russian card, that would include Gaddafi himself. Gaddafi said it very early in the crisis, I'm kicking out the West, I'm going to bring in China, Russia, India, and Brazil. And that's pretty much the catalog of what the U.S. and the British fear. Pakistan, for its part, is playing the China card, right? The alliance between Pakistan and China is evolving. It's the natural response by Pakistan and China to the U.S.-Indian nuclear agreement, which is setting up India as the nuclear cop of that part of the world. If you look at this character, Ray Davis, the Pakistan media say that this guy, who was supposedly a diplomat but then turns out to be the CIA, that he was a terrorist controller. He was in cahoots with the Taliban, and he was about to give the Taliban nuclear materials. Right?
He was probably groomed by the CIA as well.
But he's from the CIA. Exactly. No, he's officially from the CIA.
Exactly.
He's
Webster, hold that thought. We'll get back to this and so much more to come.
They're all groomed by the CIA, huh?
Al CIA. And this is the Intel Hub Radio Show. I'm Bob Tuskin.
And I'm Shepard Ambellis. We'll be back on the other side. Tarpley.net. Check it out.
All right, we're looking at the Iran card, the Russia card. Webster Tarpley, our special guest. Where do we begin, Webster?
The idea is these guys are satraps, right? This very interesting technical term. A satrap is like a viceroy for an empire, except the satrap was the one in the Persian Empire, right? In the Spanish Empire, it would have been a viceroy. And similarly for the British, right? Viceroy of India. So you're essentially in control of a country which is in the empire, but you have a certain amount of autonomy, and you got to do a lot of things on your own. What you were seeing in 09, 10, and now into 11 is a jailbreak by these satraps. So they're all running off in different directions, and they're leaving the U.S. and the British high and dry. So the Iran card, well, you have Egypt playing the Iran card. Lebanon has a pro-Iranian government now. Turkey plays the Iran card. They try to mediate the Turkish the Iranian nuclear question with the help of the Turks. Bahrain, this is really interesting. Why is Bahrain, this little emirate, being destabilized? It's the base of the U.S. Fifth Fleet. But the royal family there, the Khalifas, had dared to say to the U.S., we forbid you to use this base to attack Iran. No hostile acts against Iran from here. Of course, this is pure heresy. Plus Iraq, okay? So that's the Iran card. Egypt, Lebanon, Turkey, Bahrain, Iraq. That's already a lot. China card would be Pakistan, Gaddafi in Libya, and Karzai. Karzai in Afghanistan has made, I think, 4 trips to China so far. And the one he made about a year ago now scared the hell out of Obama so much that Obama made a dash over to Kabul to try to firm him up and prevent him from going off the reservation, if you remember that. All right, the Russia card would be this faction in Saudi Arabia around Prince Bandar, plus Karzai. Karzai is also playing the Russian card. He's busy. He's trying to meet with Putin, so he's got both the Chinese and the Russians coming in because they're both his neighbors, more or less, right? China directly, Russia pretty much so. Then you have two that are really, really important and really surprising. How about Italy? Berlusconi. Why is he under attack? It's because he's a personal friend of Putin. He personifies the Russian card in Europe, as these WikiLeaks things were saying. Oh, this is awful. He's basically a lawyer for Putin. This is called the South Stream pipeline. This is a way you can get natural gas from Russia into Western Europe without going through these crazy places like the Baltic states or Poland or Ukraine, where you have these virulent anti-Russian movements. How about Germany? They have the same thing. The Nord Stream pipeline goes directly from Russia to Germany down the bottom of the Baltic. Right? There's no way for Poland or Latvia or Lithuania or any of these little places to cause a stir. Gaddafi was also playing the Belarus card. Belarus is I think a very serious candidate for a color revolution. So you see, you look at all these main countries. I mean, look, Egypt, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Italy, Germany. This is heavy duty stuff.
Yeah. And
then you've got in the background the collapse of the dollar. Now the stuff with the dollar, of course, is it reflects the efforts of the Treasury and the Federal Reserve to bail out the derivatives cancer, right? The one and a half quadrillion of derivatives, which are the heart of the current economic depression. So we've had about $4 trillion of direct loans, most of which have not been paid back, and then you've got the quantitative easing, like the $600 billion on top of that. So this tends to drive the dollar down. So what does the U.S. do? Well, one thing they tried in 2009 and all during last year was to try to destroy the euro and use that to save the dollar. In other words, you can't make the dollar look good, but you can make the euro look really bad if you use credit default swaps to attack these countries like Greece or Ireland or Spain, Portugal, and so forth. And that basically has not worked. One reason is the Chinese came in and began buying the stuff as it became attractive to them and prevented the euro from going down. The other thing is that the Germans decided to defend themselves against the most extreme forms of credit default swaps and certain derivatives. So that failed. Then your second possibility is start a war with Iran. If you can manage to get somebody attacking Iran, then the Iranians are likely to close the Straits of Hormuz. That drives the price of oil up to $500 a barrel. That would save the dollar because that would mean there'd be plenty of demand for dollars, right? But that's not working either. So your third choice now is what I would regard as an attempt to destroy the nation states in this part of the world. And I think this is an important question for people. The way in which the U.S. and the British are operating is there's going to be the empire. The empire is the International Monetary Fund and the World Trade Organization. They make the rules. And then NATO comes in as an enforcer. And the places like Libya is carved into two parts. Sudan has just been carved into two parts. There's a very good chance that Yemen will be carved into two parts. Iraq into three parts, as we've seen. Iran, 5 parts, right? Turkey carved, Syria carved, so on down the line. So what you're left with is you better take a strong stance in favor of the nation state. Because otherwise what you'll get is this empire, and then you'll get essentially warlords, the kind of thing that's now emerging in eastern Libya. These petty warlords, oligarchs, gangsters, criminal bands, whatever they are.
Yeah.
The nation state is your main line of defense against this stuff. So I know we have all of these crazy Austrian school people running around, and we have the Friedmanites and the Chicago boys. This stuff is all insanity, right? Nation states can be made to work. But if you say I'm anti-government, you're playing into the hands of the New World Order. Because what I just described is the New World Order.
That's right.
The empire arches above, the nation state is destroyed, and everything is regionalized, or better yet, warlordized.